my left, we have Chelsea Lupkin, a talented film director at Greenpoint Pictures and senior programmer at Short of the Week. Chelsea's horror short, Lucy Scale, gained significant attention with over 6.6 million views, and her work continues to captivate audiences with projects showcased at Fantasia festivals and Sitges, where she's also dedicated to supporting emerging filmmakers through the jury roles at international film festivals and mentoring initiatives. Let's give one more applause to Chelsea. So I'm very excited here. Paul is next, who is the president and CEO of Nitrous, a leading video agency known for its expertise in production, post-production, and visual effects. With over 2 decades of experience, Paul has been the driving force behind high-profile projects across film, television, and digital media. He's also very passionate about mentoring up upcoming talent and constantly pushes creative and technical boundaries in content creation. Another big round of applause to Paul. And also joining us, last but not least, Charisse Hunt, a creative producer known for her powerful, justice-rooted storytelling with a background in film, television from Boston University, and where she has produced acclaimed documentaries like Ladies First, a story of women of hip-hop in Netflix, and Black Twitter, a people's history on Hulu. She's worked with major platforms like Disney+, BET, ABC News, and has also generously shared her experience with us in the past. One last big of applause to Chelsea. So anyway, I just read a little bit more about your bio, but I think it's important for us to learn and what is your day-to-day life, what do you guys do, and maybe specify a little bit more about your role. Chelsea, especially you're director and a senior programmer. Can you start with that and explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think, especially like if you are in freelance production in any capacity, that there's a whole pre-pro, there's pitches, there's all kind of stuff. Let's just say that I do production by day and Short of the Week by night. And then, of course, especially gearing up to the festival circuit, you have to go there, you see films, it's a whole big, process. Programmer and filmmaker.
And what do you like the most about that?
I think it's just really good to see both sides. It's also really great to see emerging talent like, you guys and also to sort of be a part of it as well and really understand each facet of what makes content.
Nice, thank you. Paul, tell me a little bit more also about your day-to-day and what is it like to run a company in your city?
It's very challenging. So I consider myself a small business owner. Nitrous has been around for many, many years. And as such, I do every job that there is in the company, and I always have. And I never would expect anyone in my company not to do something that that I will do. So, I'm an editor. I'm a colorist also. So I find my clients. I do sales. I work with other people who also do sales. I manage the projects that we're doing, and I make sure that they all are delivered correctly. I get to work on jobs that I want to work on also, so I keep my hands always in production. And we work from the beginning of pre-production all the way through delivery. So, with all the kinds of clients that we have, I get to really be versatile. And every day is different, and you kind of have to just roll with it. So that's what I do.
Busy. Very
busy. Trying to also make busy happen. You have to stay busy. It just doesn't happen by itself. So that snowball can stop rolling if you don't keep pushing it. Yeah.
Charisse, now tell me a little bit. Are you as busy as Paul as well? What's your day to day?
Trying to be, right? So as a producer, it's like you're essentially a project manager, really handling the logistics and the creative execution of a project. Right now, I'm a story producer on a series that's really, and that job is really exactly what the title is, producing story. So really taking the footage that we shot in the field and crafting the storyline in the edit. So that's my current gig right now. But I've also worked on the producer and development, production, and post. There are many different facets of being a producer. But right now I'm story producing, which I love. Very.
Now let's think back a little bit more about what did you guys do to get to this, right? Can you tell me a little bit more about how did you start, what degree did you do in college, and how did you land what you're doing currently?
I'm assuming that's for me first.
Start.
Spoiler alert, I did not really want to get into film. I was a fine art major. I thought I would one day be a painter. No, it didn't work out for various reasons. I fell into it. Truly, like, the short answer is that I went the cinematography route. Knew somebody who knew somebody, started, shooting for MTV. Someone got sick. I read a camera manual and suddenly I had my first audio spot on television. And that was kind of like, it just sort of like snowballed from there. And I think, like, as far as like, now I direct commercials and, I DP'd all kinds of, shows and also commercials. I mean, it's just like a whole giant scope of what production is. Now I'm really starting to get into my own personal work. But I think a lot of this was sort of like a bunch of happy accidents. And I think a lot of the time it's like, if you really want to do something, you have to be present. And just, allowing yourself to make mistakes is just a really good way to get your foot in the door. So read that camera manual, I guess. Yeah.
I love that. Public you, Walt.
I think happy accidents is a great way to describe falling forward. When I was a kid, I wanted to do something with buttons and lights. I liked science fiction. And basically, when I went to NYU for a year, and then we ended up in Boston, I went to BU, and I got a job in the camera stockroom as a work study. So I checked equipment out for students. And it was something I really enjoyed. I enjoyed working with the students. I enjoyed learning about the equipment. I enjoyed fixing it. I enjoyed hearing stories about how it broke. There was a lot of fun. And so from there, it just kind of, I started teaching editing while still working there. And I said, wow, I really actually like editing. And that seems like something I want to do. And you just, if you're present, which is really well said, opportunities present themselves in front of you. And, you can say, oh, I'll try that. Yeah, I'll do that. And little by little, I became a freelancer basically as an editor around New York City, working in post houses. And I decided that at that time, like, I think I can do this better than places that I'm working at, because I'm sitting with clients 12 hours a day sometimes. And some of them are miserable, some of them were happy. And I was trying to figure out what it is that makes this all work. And I decided that I really like to make things work. And that kind of led me on the path to just start my own company and being present, getting a job that's going to pay rent for a studio, like for a one-room studio. I did that with a partner. We all put a little bit of money in. We had a studio for a month. We had it for 2 months. And then we got some more work in. And then we had MTV as a client. And then eventually, as a freelancer, I started pulling in all of my contacts, and then I had HBO as a client. And it just kept building and building. And, that kind of just ended up where we are today. So just falling forward. And I don't have an MBA or anything. I'm very self-taught. So I can't say that I have the roadmap for you. I don't really even know what I'm doing today. I just kind of figure it out every day because it's changing so fast. So I'm just learning. And I always say, if you stop learning, it's the time to get out of the industry. So I just love learning and meeting people and networking and figuring it out.
So thank you. Yeah, so it's very non-linear.
Non-linear is a great word, yes.
Now, Charisse, please tell me you did want to become a producer, or it does not.
Well, I mean, so I also went to BU.
Was that?
And I actually studied PR, like in the beginning. I was like, I don't know, for some reason, I want to make fun of it. So, I studied public relations, like thinking that I wanted to be, I don't know, like a media maven in that way. But then I saw also the students like carrying around their gear. I know exactly where you worked, but I saw like the kids and students taking out their cameras, like working on their student films. Like, actually, that sounds way better than the track that I'm on. And so I left and I studied film. I switched majors. And yeah, I decided to be a film and TV. And I, as soon as I graduated, I spent a summer in Boston, just hanging out, trying to delay adulthood for a while. And then finally came back where I grew up in New Jersey. And I always knew I wanted to live in New York and wanted to have a career here. And so I reached into my network when just like my dad's my dad's coworker and maybe the executive vice president of a project company called Radical Media. They're actually based not too far from here. And I got a receptionist job, and that was my entry into the film and TV world. And so I was a receptionist for a year, and then like as soon as an EP assistant a desk opened up, I put my hat in the ring for it. It went through a grueling, I did not automatically get it. I actually went through a grueling interview process, writing assignments, and I got the job eventually. And then grew from a coordinator to an assistant coordinator, and then eventually went out on my own as a freelance AP, using my network that I had built at Radical, which Radical is a really reputable company, so like everyone fills off and does amazing things. So I tapped into my connection all the time, and so from there I worked with Culture House, the production company. That's kind of the founders are based kind of all over, and worked with them for a few years, and now I'm currently at another production company working with Lisa Cortez at Blue Ant Media. So yep, right now I'm a freelancer. But that's kind of a little bit of my general trajectory.
I love that. And you touched on such an important point, which is networking. And so can you add a little bit more? Maybe what was like, how important is it to do networking as a producer to continue to grow after like you mentioned in your career?
Yeah, incredibly important. I mean, I don't, at least in the way I know a lot of my friends and how I get gigs, it's not typically the formal route of like applying on LinkedIn. It's really like getting texts really, hey, Sharice, are you available? Like I have a gig that starts in 2 weeks. Like it's really based on your connection with who knows who, or like a referral, like, hey, my friend just recommended your name, and I'll just get a text out of nowhere from a stranger. Like, so that's really how I have grown in my career, and how I'm always looking for my next opportunity is connecting with friends that I've met along the way and coworkers that I've met along the way, and making sure that you hold on to those relationships, like be really good at your job and also be likable so people will remember you. You're spending a lot of time on set with people. You want to be likable. It's really long hours, so yeah, it's very important.
Pretty much, people want to work with people that they like working with. Yeah. Well, tell me, right? If I want to work on Nitrous, what do I want to do? What skills should young students, filmmakers, documentarians should they have to work with you?
You have to have attention to detail. You have to be likable. So when we put applications out for work, I wanted to see what you've done. So take the lowest job as an intern. I want to see what you've done, but I know that you really haven't done anything. I wanted to see some reels, but I know that you're just one of a team, a bunch of other students maybe making these reels. So I'm not expecting them to be anything over the top. For what I do in the application process is I ask 2 questions. I ask you to submit a cover letter because I want to read something that you wrote, because I want to understand who you are as a person. And at the bottom of the cover letter, I hide another question, which is, tell me who your favorite music band is. Tell me what your favorite movie is. I don't actually care what your answer is, but I want to see that you actually answered the question. Because if you don't answer the question, I know that you didn't read the instructions. And so I'm already judging you based on your response to this very simple, piece of paper. So when, that's it. But if you don't have a cover letter, your resume goes on the other pile right away, discard pile. If you do, there's a cover letter. If I don't see those other questions answered, I see that you don't really care. If you're a copywriter applying to be a video editor, I see that you didn't really read the description. You can be taught by everyone. We're not looking for copyright editors. We're looking for video editors. And I get tons of copyright, applications sometimes. So I want to see attention to detail. Then when I have you in for, I don't use AI or anything to filter your resumes or anything myself. I have a general mailbox where you post it to, and I read them. So I have you in, based on those couple things that I get you. And we talk, and I see, are you shaking my hand? Or are you looking me in the eye? Are you happy? Are you, just kind of like this? Do you have a hoodie on? Tell me, I want to see you present, because you're going to be a representative of my company, and my company is me. So I built this over so many years. I want you to want to be there. I want to see hunger in your eyes. I want to see that you want to learn. I want to see you in passion. I know that you might not know what you want to do, and I wouldn't expect you to fully understand that, because I didn't need to do it once you started, and my job is involvement all the time. But I want to see that I could work with you. I want to see that I can trust you. I want to see that you're asking questions. Those are the things that I want to see in a new employee. If it's someone who has a lot of experience, I don't want too big an ego. I just want a teammate. Like, I want someone I can collaborate with, and someone who I can work closely with and who I can depend on. I want to have a kind of a friend. I mean, like, it's not like a friend, but, someone who we can really work together and bounce ideas off of in a non-threatening way, very inclusive, all that. That's all part of it.
So it all goes back to being likable, goes back to want to work with people that you work with, read the directions, right?
And you never know who, you're going to meet through life. I've worked at very low level, APs, for instance, as an editor, and now they're creative directors and executive creative directors, big networks. I'm trying to get work.
And it takes time,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
a lot of time.
A lot of you guys are probably going to be working with you guys in the future, so you want to do the networking for sure. Now, Chelsea, I want to switch it up a little bit with you, and I was wondering if, any challenges you faced when you were building this career, and maybe advice that you have on some of the students if they face something similar.
Which one? So I think as far as the directing side, because I'm sure there's quite a few people who want to be directors. Naturally, it's a fun job. It's a really intense job. I think a lot of people think, oh, I can just, go right into this. Is it me? Am I doing that? No. I think a lot of people think, okay, well, I'm really creative and I'm really talented. Anybody can do that. It's a lot of understanding that it's super intense. Sometimes you're performing, for a creative agency on set. Sometimes, you're surrounded by 5 people, and then sometimes there's 100 people, and you are the center of the universe. You might not even have a walkie because everybody has to talk to somebody else who eventually talks to you. It's knowing that what will go wrong, everything will go wrong. Everything will go wrong, and how do you handle it? Again, hopefully it'll be in a nice way. Being nice goes a long way, because a lot of these people who you're working with, who have to answer to you, getting the respect is hard. Half the time you walk on a set, yes, you have their core people that as you both said, it's I have these people I've met throughout the years, and I want to take them with me and whatnot, and I think that's really important. But I also think that in general, you're going to be surrounded by strangers, and you also have to know that you may be out of your comfort zone. So I think as far as the challenges that I've faced, whether it's a creative thing or, something's not working, maybe there's a camera issue or a product or a talent doesn't show up, what will you do? And I think a lot of the time it's experience is everything. And it's okay to, work your way there. It's a marathon, it's not a race. So I think as far as challenges go, it's things are going to happen, just got to take it on. Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this a little bit in the grave room, right? Of this industry is up and down at the moment, right? So we have a room full of folks that want to do the things that we do, right? What are some of the things that maybe we should be taking a look into, whether it's AI, right? Is it something that is positive, negative, or maybe some sort of, hey guys, be mindful of this specific thing? Paul, I know you have something to say about this.
Well, you can't be afraid of AI. You have to embrace it. It's, I just read an article today, maybe it was, no human ever stood in front of advancing technology and stopped it. You're not going to stop AI, and we have to live with it. So how can we use it to help us and hopefully not replace us? How can we stay relevant while this technology is charging at us? I watched this big Vimeo presentation 2 days ago, and I started watching these things because I want to learn. I'm always trying to learn. And Vimeo is using a lot of AI to start doing some editing. And I was like, I'm a little scared about that. They're positioning it to take care of the basic and grunt work. Now we're using AI to, start to do transcripts and facial recognition. And there's a lot of stuff that, autofill in Photoshop and After Effects and all this stuff. So you just, don't be afraid of it. We have to embrace it.
Yeah, so
It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's a tool like anything else.
You can use it for decks. You can use it to generate some images. You can use it to, and one of my niftiest things that I've seen recently, I was like, I don't edit. I'm not that editor. But, you can search for like a word, just a random word, and it'll pull up all the clips.
Oh, yeah.
That's wild. And I think it's not replacing your creativity, but it is like helping. Like you can do like auto scene selection or like just detect where cuts on.
It's words now. Yeah. Either auto transcribes or editing. It's pretty decent.
Yeah. But I will say, really diversify your skill set, especially now when you're young and about to enter the market, or if you're at school and you have access to the amazing resources that whatever school you go to has. Like if you can learn like Adobe, like if you can like take advantage and learn all of these different programs, I absolutely would. The fact is, networks, like a lot of the buyers, like when I say buyers, I mean like, Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple, like budgets are being downsized tremendously. The crews are being downsized tremendously. So unfortunately, a lot of people are being expected to do multiple jobs and not just the one that they thought they wanted to do. So you're having, job postings that's asking you to direct and edit. And I'm not saying we should definitely, push back against that. And the unions are trying, and a lot of filmmakers are trying, but we are still seeing that. So I wouldn't go into the market expecting, to just be creative and that be a main selling point, because right now it's very difficult to break in. So use every tool in your toolbox, and if you have a few of them, try to get more. But yeah.
Another reason to learn all the positions that there are in our industry is because if you become a director, you're not just going to become a director.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to understand, a good director understands what the PA needs to do and what an AD needs to do, and all the other positions that exist on set. And then a good director is going to understand a little bit about post, or they're going to bring someone like me in and we're going to talk about post while we're planning production, so that we're getting the right cameras, that we're shooting, with the right technical specs and all this other stuff. So you become the best person you can be by knowing a little bit about everybody else's job.
I 100% agree with that.
Because people and the yellers, there are people out there who yell at you. Those are usually people who are hiding with AD that they don't really know. I'm a big fan of asking questions. If you're working for me and you don't know how to do something, I'm okay if you ask me how to do it, or you say, hey, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before. I'll point you in the right direction or stick you with someone to help me. But I don't want to fail. I can't fail for my clients. They expect no fail. So, if I set you up correctly, then I'm setting myself up correctly. And so, learn all the dogs.
One thing I want to add to that is that, I know a lot of people have gotten a little bit nervous about AI in the writing space. Yes, there are, I've seen AI shorts, obviously, with Short of the Week, etc. But here's the thing. they could be used as a tool for sure, but no, they're not going to replace you because your perspective is very unique. So I don't want you to, get down on yourself because you have some sort of AI generated thing happens. Like, you guys are the future. There's uniqueness in you, and everything has been done before, but it hasn't been done by you. So I want you to take ownership of that. So don't be afraid of all the AI stuff.
I mean, it also is pretty much you need to know how to do it all, because when there comes a challenge, right? Oh, I remember when I was a PA, or I remember when I directed this, then I know how to fix it. Yeah. So it's a lot of work, but it's important to know how to do it all just so you're able to fix it when time comes. Very great. Thank you all. Now, I feel like it's also in everybody's role. I imagine you had a mentor or somebody that really guided you through the process. Or maybe a professor you looked up to, or somebody that maybe, giving a little bit of more hope to the students. Maybe is there a role that any of the mentors you guys placed in your life, and how did that, advice impacted you that maybe you can share back as well with our community? Paul, I see you.
No one who succeeded ever gave up.
That.
If you give up, you're not going to succeed. I'm not saying bang your head against the wall, keep doing that, it's not going to change the outcome. Try something new. But in my experience, I had different mentors as I got to different stages in my career. So, the person who was my senior in TV soccer, he knew about all that stuff, and he taught me, and I really looked up to him. And he gave me my video engineering background, which then helped me understand how to wire a facility, understand all that stuff. And then later on, I met other people who showed me that it was okay when you're editing to rip apart your edit completely and start again. Take the end and put it in the beginning and see what that looks like. Don't be stubborn. You don't know everything, and other people's point of view is very valid. So when I started as an editor, it wasn't very easy to, I thought I knew the way it was, and I came out around a time when not only editing was just starting, so you were able to apply Microsoft Word basically to video editing, just doing whatever it is you needed to do. Say you take it for granted. But I would just say be flexible, be open to productive.
Tracy?
I don't know if I had one mentor, but I will say I did have a professor, one of my producing classes, who would expect us to know what was going on in the news and would sometimes give us pop quizzes on what was going on, and literally that translated actually to my assistant job, because he would actually expect me to tell him what was going on when he came to the office, what's going on, because you're making content for the world, and so if you do not know what's going on in it, then how can you actually be a content creator, right? And so read everything, read the news, listen to podcasts. Be a consumer, or be a consumer so you can actually create something that resonates. So that's one thing I would say that's absolutely held true with my entire
Do you want to know your audience? Much.
Yeah, know your audience, but also know your community. So go to events like this, but also all the amazing cultural. You live in New York. I mean, that's this is the place to really just be yourself with everything that the city has to offer. So definitely take advantage of that. And read.
Yeah, I wasn't going to answer. Now I have to answer. So I would say, twofold. I think that, I've been a programmer for Short of the Week for almost a decade now, which is wild to me. But our co-founder and also the entire team at Short of the Week, excuse my language, they kicked my ass. I would say, in the sense of I really didn't understand story structure, and I didn't really understand why I was liking what I was liking. They were just oh, you got good taste. I didn't get it. And I think that the mentors that I had there were the people that weren't afraid to tell me when something sucked, including my own. And I think one of the most valuable tools that I've had throughout the years, and maybe this even goes back to art school in general, is that your ability to take feedback or criticism is not that's the job. you are always going to get a note. You're going to get notes. You're going to, get people saying, hey, I don't like this, or hey, could you change this? And your willingness to accept that note and, pivot and be like, okay, just because they don't like this doesn't mean that they don't like me. And not taking it personally is probably the biggest thing that I've taken away from Short of the Week. That and seeing so many wonderful films and be like, oh, wow, man, that's good. I should try that.
Absolutely. We got to listen. We got to follow directions. We got to be likable. I love that. And Charisse, you touched on a point in regards to, right, this is a creators panel in New York City. So can you tell me a little bit about maybe, is there a New York City community that some of the students should join that maybe you're familiar with?
Yeah, there are definitely Facebook groups that I'm a part of, like Media Mavens, Women Working Reality TV. There are a lot of online groups of people in the film and TV industry, just if you're a person of color, there's people of color in film and TV and media. Then I can definitely, if anyone, I can let them know. But my point being that there are definitely social groups online where jobs are being posted, or networking events are being posted. Like some of producers and showrunners of your favorite shows that you watch are in these groups. So I would definitely, go online and check those out. You could literally just go on Facebook and search. But yeah, that's something I would definitely recommend everyone look into.
Absolutely helpful. And then Paul, you built your company in New York, right?
Yeah.
So is there a community maybe that has supported you, and what are some of the ways that new incomers can get involved?
So in 2016, we moved our company to Westchester because I was basically priced out of Manhattan after 20 years. When we were in Manhattan, there was actually this in our neighborhood. It was the Flatiron neighborhood. That was the last place that we were. The Flatiron community neighborhood, the neighborhood on there's a Flatiron ward or something, the neighborhood had its own kind of community thing. And, they came knocking on the door and they were like, oh, you're a business here in this neighborhood. We want to help promote you. And I hosted, the company on that. When I moved to Westchester, there's a Westchester Film and Tourism Board, which is equivalent to the Made in New York type of thing here. So they just, they're a little bit more upstate, just past Yonkers. And so anyway, I got to know those people. Tasha Caputo, she's amazing there. And you'd be surprised how small the community really is. And there's a lot of filmmakers up there. And I just started going to their networking events. And I introduced myself, and they call me up when something's happening and then they need some extra crew or something. They're having a little kind of list of recent people who've contacted me. I've always... I need a PA for a shoot I'm going to be doing on Monday, which happens farther upstate. But I ask people email me their contact information all the time, and I try to categorize it. So I kind of make my own little bit of a network, but I'm also always wanting to meet people and see where their networks are, and just kind of figure out where I fit in, because you don't fit into every network that there is, and it just doesn't, you find the few that work for you, but being aware of all of them is important. So I don't have a definitive perfect answer, but
Extremely helpful as well. Chelsea, now we talked about collaboration. We talked about tapping into your networks and connecting. Can you maybe describe a project that you had here in New York where there was a lot of collaboration involved, and how did that, make it successful? Or, maybe even we had a PA or an event intern that, because that person did this, it really just pushed it to the scene.
I think, this is tough, because I think a lot of the time, it's a text message. It's a, hey, you available for this thing? And I'm like, sure. It's a lot of just word of mouth. But then that being said, we talked about, being present, networking events, Facebook groups. I love Media Mavens, not blah. And aside from that, kind of trying to figure out local community type stuff, Well, for one, shameless plug, Short of the Week has a sister site called Shortverse. I encourage you all to join. It's an online community of 4 filmmakers in various roles. So there's producers, there's editors, there's directors, there's writers, and they all want to work together. So that's one thing. And then I would also say, like, again, the magic of New York is that there's a million things here. There's a million meetups, and Gotham Week just happened. So there's a lot of project pitching for features. There's also the commercial side and the ad space side. So going to these places. And then in addition, for some of those doc people, if you haven't heard of the Video Consortium, I also recommend that you check that out. And then lastly, as far as like where I personally collaborate with people, film festivals. Even if you now, given, you know, I'll go to a film festival either with a project, or I'm there on the jury, or one of our programmers is programming for South by, it doesn't matter. Regardless, I'm there, and I've noticed that a lot of people, including myself, when you're present, even if you don't have a film, when you go, say you went to Tribeca, you're going to meet people. You're going to meet people who are just as interested in working together as you. I think most of the people that I've now come to, like even, you know, becoming director at Greenpoint Pictures was because I met an EP at a film festival gathering. So like they're, you know, going to a screening, seeing what the networking events are, or even just like going to an after party. Believe it or not, you're going to meet some people. And I think that just being present goes a long, long, long way. So as far as collaboration goes, yeah, and I've met, most of like the DPs and producers and creative directors and some talent through that.
Awesome. I love that. I will stay with you for a moment too, because I like to hear, you know, you're working in festivals, you're in the jury. What are some of the common mistakes the filmmakers or young filmmakers are, you know, making when they're producing short films, and maybe they should watch out?
Okay, so on a technical level, and I know I'm about to trigger you, it's sound. It doesn't matter if it looks amazing, and if the sound is bad, not pass. No one, can't hear it. But I think a lot of the time, as far as like, again, every film festival has a mission. So like, so let's take horror movies, for example. South by Southwest Midnight Shorts, they're going to be the what the f*** hard. Because Fantasia, they're probably going to be more story-based. Like, looking at past programming is really helpful, and I think a lot of filmmakers just waste all the little money they have after all their college tuition on applying to the wrong festivals, so that's a huge mistake for me. But I think another thing here is, as far as story is concerned, an understanding of when to go in and when to go out. When you're introducing your conflict, when you're getting into your character arc is your plot, like just these basic things, people make a lot of mistakes, and there's a lot of like, well, how come my film didn't get in? Another huge thing would be that you submitted a 30-minute short. Your 30-minute short, that means that your film better be better than maybe 2 or 3 films in a short program. So that's hard to do. So I would say your sweet spot is probably about 12 minutes. Please do that. 12, but don't go past 17. I think that's another, a big fail that a lot of people have a problem with. But the other thing that I would say is like, understanding that in filmmaking, especially just the narrative space, understanding what your movie's about and then what it's really about. And I could talk about this for days. And I think as a programmer, we are really dissecting your story probably more than you think, and everybody's watching it. The way that programming works is like it's a whole beast, but we're watching your film. So don't make those mistakes.
And I think that's also important because I would imagine, Paul, you might want like a lot of eyes on your film before you submit it, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But then, Paul, for you, I wonder what is like the biggest misconception about production and the post-production process that you think young creators should be aware of?
Biggest misconception. Well, I'll fix it in post. Someone didn't play very well. You spend your money is kind of what a lot of it comes down to sometimes, I think. And so If you're fixing it in post, you're going to spend a lot more money there than you would have had you just done it right the first time. Maybe don't rush so much in the production stage. And to say that, I would say don't even rush pre-production so much. Don't rush into production until you have your pre-pro really nailed down well. And then you have to build into your overall path a way to be flexible, because as you're shooting, things happen. The weather happens. People get sick, COVID today and all these other things like that. So you have to have a flexible budget. You have to have good people around you. Also, people think, oh, that's easy. We'll just, do that. I mean, it takes, to make it look easy, it takes a lot of training, a lot of experience, and that translates to money.
Don't take out a credit card.
People who have all this experience and training, don't insult us by saying, well, I got this video I want to do. It's 10 minutes long, and it's this and it's this, and I have it, $800. And I always say to that, well, how much was your wedding video? How much was your bar mitzvah video? That was like at least today would be 10, 15 grand or something. So the corporate video is not going to be $800 anyway. So I think it's really understanding what you want to accomplish and planning for it.
Yeah, right, absolutely. And then Charisse, what advice would you give to those interested in documentary filmmaking in terms of like researching or finding the subject? I know, putting you on the spot.
Well, I think though, what I was saying already before about making sure you read, make sure you read. I mean, that's read newspapers, magazines, go out into the culture, go to museums, listen to podcasts, know what's in the culture, and so that will be your that will gather many ideas for you. So yeah, I think going back to that. So yeah, exactly. Yeah, something that you're individually passionate about, and how you crack the way how you can actually transform that into a film or a series that you can document. That's your brain and imagination is, of course, the starting point. But how you get that, how you execute that into a film is a whole other story. But your individual creativity is number one.
And don't overshoot, ready? Please don't overshoot it.
Yeah.
Please don't overshoot.
So Charisse, I mean, I feel like a lot of us are familiar with Ladies First, right, on Netflix, and you're reading. How did that come up to be, right? Is it what made you like? What is it behind the scenes? What process that allowed you to produce this?
Yeah, well, that was a collaborative process between Culture House and Netflix. Racham Najan, who is actually on the board of the Center of Communications, she had really fostered that relationship with Netflix. And so it kind of, I think, morphed into, I think it was originally, and Ray, if you watch this, sorry if I'm butchering this, but like, I think it was really this idea of exploration of like womanhood, like gender and race in America. And then we eventually, how can we explore this through the lens of hip hop, right? And so many actually months and years in the making, because honestly it's one of those kind of COVID projects where it's like something, there was development in the beginning, and then like pitching, and then the green light, and then COVID happened, and then but it was a long series in the making that can be many hours worth discussing. And then, but I will say one thing, kind of going back to like expectations versus the reality of like film and TV making. It's, a lot of us go in with these like kind of grand ideas of romantic ideas of what a show will be. And I love every show that I've ever worked on. I've been very grateful to work on projects that I actually really love. But there, especially when you're dealing with like bigger networks like Netflix, Disney, Hulu, which I've been grateful to work with. these are big companies, and you think, oh, you have the credit card to their money. That's not the case. You are given a budget, and then you are expected to produce within that budget. And then, of course, as you're creating something, there are many different level, or I guess not roadblocks, but things of parameters, I should say, right? For example, like the money people are gonna, bring down the lawyers, then standards and practices, like there's definitely gonna be many points where we're gonna have to murder your darlings, if you will. So you step back and like, this is not exactly what I envisioned it to be, but to make something to the market, which is their brand, and they care about their company and they care about their bottom dollar, and they're paying for it. You're gonna have to craft something.
Compromise.
You're gonna have to compromise many times, especially when you're told that you can't afford that $20,000 piece of archive. So, but yeah, sorry, and that's a very long way of answering your question. But it's like be out in the world, and then also have expectations of what will come to fruition in the end.
Thank you. And Paul, I'll get to you in a moment in regards to this question as well, but I want to start opening up for everybody. You can actually come and make a line right here. I'm going to ask one more question before we go into a Q&A. So yes, feel free to start making a line, and then we'll open it up to everybody. Paul, going back to that, right? What is kind of like your creative process for production and post-production that maybe they should learn about?
I guess it depends on if I'm producing and it's my documentary, or if it's something that most of the time it's someone that they brought the idea to me, and if they want to develop it to something bigger, we just start kind of hitting the idea from all different sides and seeing how to make it better. We look to poke holes in the idea and see, is it really special? Has it been done before? Has it been done from this angle before? So I would have to say that right now we're developing 2 or 3 ideas into hopefully creating into something. And it's just a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of saying what you really think, and hoping that the product doesn't fall apart at these moments, and if it doesn't, it makes it stronger. And it's an additive process. You keep putting things into the pot, and hopefully it bakes to make something that tastes better. And sometimes you have to take stuff out. So it's a lot of back and forth, and I don't have a science to it the way I work. It's just find your common, very solid, straight thread that goes through, and that's going to be your guiding light, I guess. And then see what else that you can add to it that it doesn't take away from it, it strengthens it.
Very good, thank you. Now let's open it up. If you can please introduce yourself, mention the school, the organization you represent. Sure.
Hi, I'm Ollie Lee. I'm a junior studying film here at NYU, actually transferred from BU. Yeah.
Damn. I know, I feel super left out.
First of all, thank you guys so much for your time. It was very insightful. And I was just wondering, for each of you guys, when thinking back on your career, what is one skill that you learned outside of school, outside of work, that you had to learn by yourself that you thought was critical to your career?
Good question. Who wants to start? Go ahead. Yes.
So all of it. I learned how to be a cinematographer outside of school. I PA'd first. I was in an equipment closet, really sexy. And I just, tinkered around with some stuff. And then I started shooting. So from there, it kind of like fell forward, if you will. And then as far as the other thing that I learned outside of school, because that's your question, yeah,
Yes.
Is how to be a writer. I realized that it's really hard to figure out what how to represent yourself in your creative life. And I knew that, it's really hard to find people who are going to write for you. So learning how to do that was something that I just learned over time, be it through programming, for Shoulder of the Week, and then also just reading a lot. Yeah.
I'd say listening listening to your clients. You know, I have clients that they all have their unique angles and something that they want to accomplish, and listening to what they're saying and then trying to figure out if that's what they really need. Because many times when you're editing something, for instance, they're saying one thing, but that's not what they're actually meaning. They're meaning something else. So try to have a really open mind and not take anything personally. Just listening.
I like to say, take the spirit of the spirit.
Oh my God.
The spirit of this. You know the word. That's that. Exactly.
What you want.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. School's not real life.
Very question.
But you know, there you learn a lot in school, and it's really, and I wouldn't say for anything, but it's kind of similar to just like communication. I mean, there's just on a whole other level when you're like, you're doing a job and you're being paid money to do that. You know, maybe you're on a show or a series or a film that's a bunch of millions of dollars and you're working with a big client. It's like all those added pressures. I mean, I think communication and being very clear and asking questions. Every problem that I've ever seen on set or in post or in development or like whatever, when it comes to the money or whatever, it always comes down to, oh, I didn't see that email, or I didn't. Oh, I wasn't CC'd. Or, you know, it always comes down to it. So, like, making sure that you, no one could ever say that you did tell them something. Just think about that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's come up with our next question.
Hello, my name is Nikki. I'm a recent-ish grad. Went to USC in California and working as a creative producer now. I was wondering, in terms of like storyline and mostly on the documentary side, how often do you see yourself going in to production, you know, with a storyline or something, you know, a lens that you're trying to tell the story through, and that kind of changing in post or kind of, you know, the interviews or the footage ends up dictating that story?
Therese, you want to take that one?
I mean, all the time. But it does help. Like, for example, this show that I'm working on now, story producing, I'm a story producer on it. And story producing is usually something, a role that comes on after you've already shot in the field or like maybe the midway point. I was fortunate to be able to work on it in development, so be able to do pre-interviews with our subjects and also create a shooting script, an outline based off of what we imagine that we will get based off of these interviews. So there was a plan, and there are a lot of times in documentary making, because the world of like verite and like it is not really, there's a lot of writing that goes into documentary filmmaking. Shout out to the non-scripted who are trying to work it unionized. But so that happens all the time, but it's, you kind of, if you prepare in development, it helps like mitigate any risks or cost risks or anything like that. When you're talking to your subjects and you've spent a lot of time getting to know them, there shouldn't be anything that's too surprising once you get into the edit. So when you build that relationship with these people, and so it all works out in the end. So yeah, there is all the time, there is something, a new storyline that you want to explore, especially when you start getting network notes. I'll be like, actually, even if you spent all of pre-production showing them development and they greenlit it, and they'll be like, actually, can we explore something else? And then maybe you'll get money to do reshoots, you know? Yeah, it's something that's it can be a little bit nebulous, but trust the process, it will work out.
Thank you. Let's go with our next question.
Hi,
I'm Sahaba. I'm at the School of I'm at Global Public Health, and I'm a master's student in social behavioral sciences. I wanted to know if there's any quality that you've kind of gained over your experience that has been really crucial as you develop in your creative journey.
Steve.
Paul, you want to take on that one?
I'm waiting for an answer in my head.
Or children as well?
I guess just being more professional. The more you're exposed to people, the more problems that you have to solve, the more experience you get. It shapes who you are as a person. So I don't know if there's one quality in particular. I think I know more now what's nonsense and what's not. My BS detector has gotten much better as a business owner, so that's gotten me more refinement to it. I want to get more to the plate and get it done quickly.
I think being under pressure
True.
and then weirdly enjoying it. So that would be
Very true. I think that happens to all of us for sure. Thank you. Let's go with our next question.
Hi, my name is Juanca. I'm a junior at Columbia studying film. And I was wondering, like, throughout different projects, have you found that there's like a common thematic or thing that you keep like grappling with in your work despite different subject matter?
Yes, for me, but also, so a lot of the shows that I get to work on have explored kind of race, gender, pop culture, and the intersection between all those things. So that's just my resume. And I think my network kind of knows me for that and trusts me to kind of come in and craft storylines around that subject matter. I mean, I'm open to everything, and I'm able to do everything. But so far, I will say, especially, and now even nowadays, no, I don't think any project, whether it's narrative, whether it's docs, they always want to ask, what's the broader theme here? Like, what are you exploring outside of, the conflict that we're exploring these characters, right? It's like, what does that say about society at large? And so I think that will always be something, a question as you continue to create.
I think for me at least, twofold. I would say like in my sort of commercial space, editorial space, I've worked a lot in food media too. I don't know if anybody knows what Delicious. It's a food magazine. Here's a show that I used to share quite often. It was very fun. But as far as personal
videos of it.
Oh god. But as far as like my personal views, like I really I tend to write horror about the female experience. And so like I have a couple of features in development that sort of go into that trend. And I think the hardest thing for any filmmaker, and I sort of ask you all, so I kind of look inward, is that, the realization that you should be making what you like to watch it took me embarrassingly far longer to realize that. And I think that that's something important for, any filmmaker getting out there to do stuff.
Would you like to add anything or?
As an editor, I find that I learn a lot from the projects that I edit. I immerse myself into them. And to your point, I really I try to be the best storyteller I can from the point of view of the viewer. So even if it's something I never really heard of before I started working on the project, I find I immerse myself into it very deeply because I live it when I'm in that box. I'm very intimate with the people who I'm telling their story about. I know everything about that. I know their mannerisms. It's kind of creepy.
Passion.
It's passion. And as, I want to communicate, the nuance to the viewer. I see things that were like, on take out a whole section, but I'm like, oh, that's the section that had this really special moment where this one person did this one thing, and I felt like that characterized them in that moment.
And then you make a short out of it if you want to see that. Yeah.
And that's how we all collaborate. Yeah. That's pretty much. Thank you so much for your question.
Thank you.
Chris?
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a NYU student. I'm a sophomore. I'm also studying film and TV. I also wanted to ask about your fine arts background because I also transferred from fine arts and I wanted to be like a mixed media illustrator. And I was just wondering like how much of that transferred or like how well did it transfer into film and just your work in general?
I think that for one, I think the two very personal things for me specifically is that one, you're a visual artist. So I think, you learn to communicate visuals and emotions in a different way than maybe a film student might. And I think that almost can, be your secret weapon. How does a color palette, make someone feel? Like if I make something really red on screen, you might get a little uncomfy. I think that those kinds of like even color theory has kind of like translated in a weird way. But then that being said, when you're in any kind of fine arts community, and I know even with the film students here at NYU, there's all the actors who you can be friends with, you can put them in your films. There's a lot of ways like that. I went to Carnegie Mellon University. I was really fortunate enough to just be surrounded by really cool talent, people who were willing to sacrifice a weekend or two to come help me make some stuff. But I would say it was surprisingly an easy way in. And then truly, I know quite a few animators who are also doing mixed media in advertising and in their storytelling. People aren't really afraid now, what with just the fluidity of media in general, to do something like that, where you might have an animated section, or live action. One of my favorite films, actually, I'm gonna give you a recommendation. I think it's called The Starfish, and it's half animated, but half it's horror. So yeah, there we go. And then it also has live action, and there's just so many really good examples of that. So don't leave that behind. Figure out a way to incorporate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. Yay. I'm not alone. Yeah, right? Please go ahead.
My name is Xavier. I'm from Medgar College, and I wanted to know how would you pitch a project to streaming sites or festivals?
Even take streaming. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, typically, you would usually try to collaborate with a production company, and then take it out to market, right? And so, that's usually how. So it's kind of individual ways, right? It's someone at the network, right, who can get you in the door. You have an agent, who that's the second way. And then third is through a production company. There are other ways, but I think those are, something you make a short or a doc and it gets through the festival, and it really does well in the festivals, and that's how it actually gets picked up. So those are the main ways, and it's very, very difficult to get your work seen as anyone. Just being honest, as anyone. They don't take open submissions just because legalish. They won't they won't read it if you just cold send a script or anything like that. So as you develop in your career, definitely I would try to foster that connection with production companies who have already connections, and the agents that are attached to their production company to try to develop a project, whether it's a doc or a film or a scripted series or whatever, and then possibly take it out to market that way. Yeah.
Got two avenues for you. One, if you made a short and it gets seen at a festival and does really well, or maybe it blows up online, you can get representation. And that representation, like an agent or a manager, can make those contacts directly to a studio or a streaming service so that you can properly pitch. And the pitching process is so, we won't get into that. But as far as the other way that you could probably get in is by simply using your short as a proof of concept for a larger project. A lot of shorts get developed into features just the same way as maybe a book like an IP, a lot of books are adapted source shorts. And so that's a really good way to have a calling card. So as far as the festival circuit goes, I would say, if it does really well, there's a lot of industry people that go out and they see you and they see what you've made, and that's really a way in that way. But then also there's a lot of film markets, and this is kind of like the peek behind the curtain. You know, you have like Gotham Film Week where you can pitch. There's EFM, which is the European film market. There's Frontier, which is the same film market that's both at Cannes and also at Fantasia. There's so many places for you to pitch your project, but obviously there's a huge application process there. And if you have visual materials, or if you have a lookbook or a treatment plus your script, I mean, there's just a million pieces of the puzzle. So I would just say, like, you know, if you're a filmmaker and you're trying to figure out like what is the first step, make short. I really, really think that that's important because one, it can showcase what you're able to do as a director. It might showcase what you can do as a writer, or it could showcase the IP that you could potentially make into a larger project to then pitch to like a studio or a streaming service, etc. But there's a lot of ways in. It's just really hard to find which one will work for you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And I feel like that you touch upon like pitching, and we'll go into your next question as well in a second. But what makes a good pitch, or what should a good pitch have?
Those goes.
I mean, just like a good log line that is easy to understand. So making sure that whatever idea that you have can be as concise as one log line that you can easily pitch. And then right now, in terms of like what you go into a pitch with, just talk about a short. If you haven't shot anything, a deck design of what you imagine your project to be. Do you have access? It's like right now it seems the buyer's market in terms of what people are buying. They're buying sports, they're buying celebrity content, and true crime or true crime
And horror.
Horror, yes, horror or like. True, that's I'm thinking more in the doc space, or like Tinder swindler type of stuff. So it's like if you have access to a lot of archive, networks love that. Oh, you have access, or you have access to the big name celebrity or whoever. That's what that makes your project or concept way more saleable. At least what I've seen in today's market.
Do you think, Chelsea?
Well, I agree with that a lot. I think that, but then it's like, like how do you find access? And it kind of comes back to like, how do you find your way into the industry? And like, it's really, really hard. And it's, be present. For some of you, it's going to happen right away. And for some of you, it might take a couple years. And that's okay. And it's really hard to like, sometimes it's really hard and, vulnerable here. It can be really hard to, look at someone else's successes, especially somebody maybe you went to school with, and they're getting ahead quicker than you, and you're taking that as a failure. It's not. Everybody gets in at a different time. You just have to keep getting there. You have to keep fighting for it. What did you say? What was the quote? It's like
those who succeed don't quit.
Yeah, that. Don't quit.
Very nice. Thank you. We can go with the next question.
Hi, my name is Brianna Atkins. I actually just recently graduated my master's from here at NYU. So for someone who's like in the thick of the job hunt right now and doesn't have a formalized training in film and television, but has more like community-based independent experience, how do you make yourself stand out resume-wise, when you're not tapped into the hidden job market against people who kind of have more specialized training?
Paul, you touch upon resumes a little bit.
Your personality goes a long way. Like I said, as someone who's starting out, I don't expect you to have these massive credentials yet. But if you're doing something in that space, that sets you apart from other people. So therefore you have skills that maybe not someone else has. And so what's going to come across to me is your personality. Tell me what you can do with the experience that you do have. Show me that you want to do whatever it is that you want to do. Make me feel your passion for that. But then, one thing I always ask my employees, as through the years, so are you doing what you want to do? I kind of check in with them. Where do you interns? Where do you see yourself? In a few years. I get I want to be a director. I want to be in Mark's research. Okay, Or let's just take one step at a time. Obviously, you want to be a director or you want to be a writer. Okay, so I know that maybe that person's not going to be on the edit track. You know, maybe they're going to want to be different. Maybe, you know, I steer them in a different direction. So I just want to see where where your passion is and what you see yourself doing. And then, from getting along, I really think that you're someone who I can depend on. Need to see where that goes. That's how it looks for me.
I think because again, I did come through like the film school side. I'd say those Facebook groups were amazing. And, PAing and, just being on a random set, you get to like soak in everything. And I would say try and do that as much as you can. And if there's something about it that you don't like I think I tried for like a day. I tried to do assistant editing, and I was like, no. No.
You have to have a certain
it wasn't me. It's a puzzle, massive. I think like being willing to try things, but also knowing like, yes, there's LinkedIn, there's, Instagram, there's a million groups that like at the time, when I started, I didn't have those. And so all I did was like, again, I think my dad got me like a random internship because he knew somebody in New York. By the way, does not work in film at all.
It doesn't.
Nobody does. Nobody's in film. Nobody in my family's in film. But it's like one of those things where I think I cold emailed various production companies throughout New York for internships and PAs, like maybe like 100 emails over the course of a million months. And then finally someone's like, yeah, you can come in and we have like a film or something coming up. And it was just like, again, something will stick. Timing is everything. Yeah. And being prepared, mentally to take on that opportunity is also important.
Yeah. I mean, whatever, like, as you're tailoring your resume, right? It's like a PA assistant jobs, which is what you're probably looking for at the kind of the entry level. It's like coordination and like attention to detail. Like those are two important things, and those are important across many jobs, right? And so if you have those kind of words sticking out, like you're a strong communicator, like, I can answer phones, I can, handle like multiple things, that multitasking, it's like, those are the things that are every, I guess, producer, EP, or whatever is looking for in a production assistant, and you can absolutely do those jobs. Just so whatever your background is in, like, is the community, sorry? Is it?
Well, my bachelor's is in English with a minor in Spanish and cinema studies. But what I graduated here with is, it's a little long-winded, but it's from the experimental humanities and social engagement department. But I studied advancing storytelling of the Black diaspora.
Love it. So your background, like that, of course, that like cultural context, but also like whatever work experience, volunteer, or like it can transfer. Like just use it, and you'll very easily see how those things apply into the production world.
Absolutely, thank you. I think I'd like to add as well that the fact that read the descriptions. There's keywords that we embed in the job descriptions that I'm looking for in your resume. So just like, if it's video editor, I don't want to say copywriting. If it's social media, it has to be social media experience. So those keywords really, on your resume, that's what I'm scanning and looking for to make sure you have the abilities that I'm looking for.
And tailor your resume, like, don't include things like, I have a special skill in tennis, or I'm believe it or not, but like, or I worked at, it doesn't, try and tailor it as specific as possible to what you're applying for.
Very nice, thank you. And then our last question.
Hi guys, my name's Eliana. I didn't go to film school. I went to community college back home in Maine, and I'm kind of in that decision process of deciding if I want to go to film school now that I've graduated. But my question's more about, I feel like this is a shared experience, or at least I hope so. Sometimes I feel like when I'm not on set, or when I'm not actively writing, or I'm not going to events like these, I feel very detached. I'm like, is this really what I want to do? Like, do I have the energy to really do this full time as a career? And so, but when I'm at these events and when I meet all these amazing people, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. I love this. This is what I want to do for sure. So what would you suggest someone do to keep that feeling going, even when you can't always be at events or always meeting people or writing all the time? Those challenging. Like
Okay, so I think first of all, it's really hard. Like, I didn't move to New York right away. I couldn't afford it, just couldn't. And so I was in, Pennsylvania, and how was I going to get to the city? And I had New Jersey Transit. I think a lot of keeping myself excited about it was doing everything that I could to make stuff even in my hometown. So like I was like, believe it or not, there's a lot of places that have local film offices. And because of that, like you can see like, oh, these buildings I can shoot in front of, and then suddenly, an idea pops in, and then I can write for a location that's somewhere nice to me. Like you don't have to shoot something with a big expensive camera. You can shoot something on your phone. Like your phone can do some cool stuff. I think one of the biggest things that kept me in it, because like this is not like what you're saying, a lot of us feel like, sometimes even, for me, I'm in New York, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to another thing. But then I'm like, oh, but this is exciting and I'm here. And then I'm like, depressed one other day. I think a lot of it is like forcing yourself to continue to work at your craft when you can, be it writing or something else. But then also being able to join social media community. So like I mentioned Shortverse. That's an online community that you can start engaging with other filmmakers who suddenly like, oh, I have this idea to, I don't know, shoot on a boat in a river, but I met this one guy who really likes, sea monsters, so I'm going to see what he can do. And then suddenly you have like, you're building a little, film group, and those are the people that are going to champion you. And I feel like when you're looking at filmmaking, and I think part of the reason why sometimes it's really depressing when you're first starting out, and maybe I'm putting words into everybody's mouth, but feel free to chime in, is that you feel like you're alone in it. But the second that you start kind of like asking around and like making friends with other people who want to do this with you, suddenly it's really fun again. And I think a lot of it, like even for me, like sure, like I can be here and be like, oh, I'm a programmer and I'm a filmmaker and whatever. I was surrounded by a lot of really cool people who we just kept raising each other up. And so I think like when you look at someone's career path, it isn't just you, it's a lot of the people that you surround yourself with. And I think that's really important to keep you staying positive and not feeling like you're not doing enough. And that's all of you build your company with, yeah.
So I want to get out of my own head.
Yeah.
Because when you own your own company, it never turns off. So it's just always with me, and it's terrible and painful sometimes for me. But how do I stay happy and engaged? How do I not, just want to slow all away? Because it's a lot. And being the owner of the company, there's so many other pressures on you beyond just editing. Like when I sit in the chair and I edit, that's all I do. And the rest of the company is doing something else, and it's going off the rails possibly. So I have to keep that in the back of my head all the time. So I like to do things that make me happy. So I like technology. I do something with technology. Maybe it's a project I get to do with my kids or something, or it's grounding my bathroom. It's something physical. I'm a physical person. I like to do things with my hands. So to keep my sanity, I'm always doing something physical, a little project, whatever that is. That helped me when I was growing as a freelancer too. I just immersed myself in literature, in books, in movies. Watching a film is training. Watching TV, that's your homework.
Yeah.
Like that's the cool. We get to watch TV and film. That's what we and I learned.
Yeah, I'm short films.
Yeah, and you learn like from these films that it's shot on the iPhone and it's shot like that. You can still learn something from that. And so I think being a student all the time is a way to keep yourself engaged and not feel alone, because there's someone who made that film that you're connected with. So I feel like that's how I do it.
Therese, how about you? How do you stay hopeful?
Yeah, I mean, really, especially nowadays, like the social media and like all of us being kind of scatterbrained across so many different things. I think kind of what you're saying, no matter
what you're working in, taking care of your kind of physical, mental, and social health is imperative for the longevity of any career that you pursue. Like really making sure that you're fostering a community outside of your job that pays you, having a therapeutic practice, whatever that may be, really take care of yourself first and foremost, because I love what I do. But I have seen a lot of friends be laid off, this year and are really struggling to look for work. This is not like content creation and filmmaking is lovely. I love that I get paid to do something that I really like. But at the end of the day, when I go home, do I feel loved and supported in my everyday life? That is first and foremost my priority than the job that I have to do tomorrow. So, and I think that will help you as you're making whatever life choice that you make next.
Life choice. What do you want on your tombstone?
Right, sure.
Think about that.
Yes.
But also,
We attended all those Zoom meetings.
yeah.
That's like the worst thing ever, right?
I think it's really hard to make your passion your profession. And I think that, like, be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
That's all. Yeah.
It takes time, pretty much. Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you to our panelists for the amazing conversation that we had tonight. Another big, big round of applause, and I'll pass it on to Faith to close it out. Yes. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. Thank you all for the answers, the information, the shared advice, and we look forward to seeing you all again at our next event. Thank you.
Yes.